Okay, so just before you start, Rach, we're all good. Excuse me. All right, so Rach, in 3, 2, 1, go.
Welcome back to the Killer Storyteller podcast with me, Rachel Lynch, coming to you from London, and my Aussie mate, podcaster Kristy Horn, tuning in from Melbourne, Australia. Thanks so much for joining us, and it's great to be behind the mic for another killer episode. And we're in double digits. This is episode 11. G'day, Kristy. How are you?
Oh, I see what you did there. G'day, Rach. I'm great, thank you. It's so good to see you. How you doing?
Yeah, really good, really good. Everything's going orange here. We're into autumn and nearly Halloween next week, so it's all cozy fires and spooky colours. And have you seen my social media post that I did?
Love
Halloween and
that.
that. Oh, it's just lovely. I love this
So
time
much.
of year.
And
Cozy. What about you?
We've got heaps more social media posts to come out with all the Halloween stuff. So you've been warned, folks. Oh, actually, this will probably come out after Halloween. So, yeah, you can look forward to that next year. But I'm really great, thanks. And a massive hello to all of our listeners from all around the world. And that's right, I am coming to you from Melbourne, Australia.
So today, guys, we have got a special treat for you, and we're heading straight to Bonnie, Scotland, to chat with the brilliant Marion Todd, best-selling author of the Detective Clare Mackay series. If you ever wanted to know how a piano teacher turned candle maker ended up writing gripping police procedurals set in St Andrews, well, you're in for a treat.
Exactly. Marion's books have sold over 500,000 copies, and they're loved for their sharp plots, Scottish grit, and that unstoppable detective Clare Mackay. Mackay or Mackay?
Oh. Mackay.
Thank you. We'll be talking to Marion about her creative process, what it takes to build a long-running series, and how she really feels about AI sneaking off with her words. Because we're not shying away from that one, guys. So grab your coffee or maybe a dram of whiskey and settle in.
This is the Killer Storyteller podcast with special guest Marion Todd.
Okay, hello and welcome everybody, and welcome Marion to the mic.
Hello, thank you. It's lovely to be here.
Fantastic. It's lovely to have you.
Thanks so much for joining us today, Marion. It's really special because you're our very first VIP guest. And we're so honoured to have you.
I'm really honoured. Thank you so much for asking me, even though it is in Marion land very early in the morning. I realise that normal people are up and about at this time, but I'm like, I've got matchsticks to keep my eyes open.
Oh, you're doing very, very well. So
I thought so, yeah.
Well done for getting up so early. Thank you. And this is really super cool because we've got 3 people in 3 different parts of the world. So our podcast is truly global. Excuse me. Before we start with our chat today, I actually have a bunch of questions. So I'm really keen to learn, how do you two know each other and how did you meet? And another question, do you read each other's books? And if so, do you ever find yourselves thinking, oh, I wish I'd written that scene?
All the time.
Yeah, same, all the time. Marion and I met online really as writers because it was one of our mutual friends, wasn't it, Marion?
Yeah, Sheila.
Yeah,
Sheila Bugler.
Another amazing writer who we will ask to come on the pod because you will love Sheila. And actually, we should wear the same because Sheila's Irish, so the green will look good.
We are all in green today, guys. You'll be able to see
we all got the memo.
We did.
And Sheila did a wonderful thing. She rightly so. She realised that actually writing can be a bit of a lonely place, and she started reaching out to other writers. And we just created a WhatsApp, didn't we?
We did,
I love that.
And it's an absolute lifesaver because it's such a solitary activity, sitting behind the computer every day, and just to be able to go online and say, oh, this book, and someone else will say, oh yeah, and by the time you come off the conversation, you're thinking, yeah, okay, I can do this. So that's how we got to know each other.
That's so nice.
We do definitely read each other's books. They're priority. Rachel is my next book. I've just finished one yesterday, so I'm starting Rachel's today. Really excited about that.
I'm so excited about that.
It better be good, Rach.
Oh, sorry, Marion, in advance. If it's not, if it's utter rubbish, you'll forgive me. And
Is it The Rich? Because I could
this,
bang on about The Rich
yeah,
all day.
No, that was
Favourite book.
fantastic. That was
So,
just
so good.
yeah.
this is the new one, Kristy, coming out in January. So my publisher sent it to a list of people who I really want to read it, and Marion, Sheila, and the other writers on my on our WhatsApp are always top of the list. And we chat most days actually,
That's great.
about. And we all support each other when our
Yeah.
books come out, and it's a joy. Actually, it's not like a job. It's a joy to read each other's books.
Oh, I'd really love to hear that. Marion, you've had such an interesting path into crime fiction, from piano keys to crime scenes. Can you tell us a little bit about how you came to write your debut, See Them Run? And I'm currently listening to that one too, with your voice recording it. It's great. So, yeah, interested to hear about that.
Okay, so See Them Run, probably like most writers, wasn't the first book that I wrote. There's a book that's sort of languishing in a hard drive that will never see the light of day. And I wrote that because I really wanted to kill someone, and they don't let you do it. It's against the law. So when I'd had this really horrible tutor at university, who just wrecked my confidence, absolutely made me feel worthless. And nowadays he'd be sacked, but back in the day, in Victorian times when I was a girl, they could do what they liked, and it was a very misogynistic atmosphere. And I dropped out of university, and it was years later before I went back and finished my degree. And I still remember, when I'm talking about this, how that man made me feel. He is dead now, and I did not kill him.
Are you sure?
I should have done, yeah. So I thought, well, I'm going to put him in a book, I'm going to kill him, and I'm going to let the killer get away with it. So I wrote that book, and it was about him and about the woman who had come to kill him and why she'd come to do that. But because a crime had happened, there was a detective involved called Clare Mackay, not Mackay, and no points there, Rachel. I let an editor see it, and he said, yeah, okay. He said, I think the strengths are in the police procedural parts. Why don't you write a police novel and have Claire as your main character? So that's what I did. And that was the novel that became See Them Run. So out of a really horrible experience, some good has come. The premise behind the book was that I wanted to use a car as a weapon, because anyone from like a 12-year-old child up to a 100-year-old person could drive a car. So it wouldn't necessarily have to be a big, strong person or that kind of thing. I thought, it could be anybody. So that was the premise. And then I wanted a kind of pattern, because having read lots of Agatha Christie books over the years, there was often a pattern to the murders in some of her stories. And I thought, right, let's start with a countdown, where the first victim is found with a number 5 on the body, and then the next victim is found with a 4. And so Claire realizes it's a race against time to save the others. And that was where it started.
Fantastic.
I love that, Marion, and that really sort of covers out my next question really as well, which was, we've both had really different careers before coming to writing, and what you said there about your sort of personal experiences and how that feeds into your writing. Do you think our past careers help us observe people differently, and how does that feed into your writing? And then, how much of you, and you've already answered this really, how much of you do you put into Claire?
Yeah, that's a really good observation. I think definitely, especially as you get older, you become more of an observer than a participator. And I had, as you mentioned in the intro, I had a job as a lounge pianist. Eventually, when I did my degree, it was music, which was my first love. And I used to play in a bar. Well, it was a kind of lounge, a hotel lounge at the weekends. And when you do that weekend in, weekend out, you tend to play the similar stuff or same stuff, and you get to the stage where you don't even need to look at the keys. So you're watching people, and it was a terrible piano. Actually, it was really terrible. It was a baby grand, and I think there's a bit of snob value attached to baby grands. I think people think, well, let's get a baby grand, and it would have been a nice piano in its day, but it was shockingly bad. So because a baby grand's got a flat top as opposed to an upright that's in front of you, I could watch people. So I used to sit and, kind of watch everybody that was coming in and going out. And you would often see the same person coming in different weekends with different people. And you could tell the ones who were staying the night because they didn't have coats and things like that, and you think, okay, I see what you're doing. And but it wasn't even just that. It was just watching the staff and how they interacted with their boss and with the customers, and then you see them turning away and their faces twist and things like that. It was all of those things fed into it. And then years later, I went to teach in a further education college, and met people from every walk of life there. So that was an absolute rich tapestry that I could draw on for the characters in the book. And a lot of the characters who are in the book have come from those times. So yeah, I think you definitely do draw on your own life experience. Do you do that, Rach? Do you think that?
Yeah, absolutely. The same as you, Marion. I find myself writing a scene, and it might be a gym, or it might be a walk in the forest, and suddenly something from my past will jump up, and this character, who might have been walking a dog or whatever, and it pops into your head, and you just slot them in, don't you? And it's great fun, actually. And I think you're right about age. I think the older you get, the more the more varied people that you've met, and the more I think time you get to slow down and sit back and watch. I love that vision of you playing the piano. I love that.
Yeah. It's just, it was really strange. The first night I played, there was a procession of staff came out to look at me. And you could just see them sort of casually, chefs in their whites, wandering out of the kitchen and just sort of casually wandering past, hello, and then they would go on their way and back to the kitchen. Then someone else would come out, and then football teams would come in. If I was playing on a Friday night, the footballers would be staying if they were playing at one of the local grounds, and that completely changed the dynamics, because suddenly the staff were really excited about that and coming out for autographs. And there's an opening scene in See Them Run at a wedding, which is getting quite wild. A wedding ceilidh, as we have in Scotland, lots of country dancing. And there were a lot of weddings in the hotel. And what would happen was they would be in a function room, and then you get to that stage in the proceedings where the meal is over, the speeches are over, and they drift out to the bar while the room is set up for dancing at night. So the bar would be full of always a drunk bride, sometimes crying because she'd had so much to drink. She was at that stage. I'm like, well, I really love you. And all the guests and all their finery, you would see, the dresses are starting to slip off the shoulders. And it was just such a rich experience.
So much content. It's just so juicy. Absolutely. So juicy. Marion, your first book in the series was shortlisted for the Bloody Scottish Crime Debut of the Year in 2020. That's really impressive. And what was that like for you?
Well, it was a game of two halves, really. It was very, very exciting because it was a validation. Rachel, I'm sure, will agree with me that we all suffer from imposter syndrome. We don't think we're good enough. And any minute now, somebody's going to tap me on the shoulder and say, right, that's it, stop it. Nobody wants to read your little books. So to have my first book shortlisted for a prize was a real boost to my confidence. I thought, right, okay, maybe I can do this. Maybe it's more than just one publisher, because you get a lot of rejection along the way. And by the time I was picked up, I had so many rejections. I've never dared count them, but like 30 plus at least.
Wow. They're the things that
So
you don't see or know about
no,
as a reader.
and you have to, and this is why I say to people who want to be published, you must keep going. I mean, take feedback on board. If you are being rejected and someone has time to tell you why, take that on board. But you have to persist. On the downside, it was 2020 and it was lockdown. So I would have been on the Bloody Scotland on a panel at the festival. It didn't happen. They did a kind of online thing, but I wasn't involved. I would have been at the head of the Torchlight Parade, which they no longer do it now, but up until last year, they would have this incredible thing up at Stirling Castle, just about at dusk, where they would give everyone flaming torches, and we would walk down these cobbled streets to the Golden Lion Hotel where the presentation takes place, or to the Albert Halls, depending on what they were doing. And it was medieval, just the snake of people walking down from hundreds of people from the castle with flaming torches that would then be doused when you got there. And it was just the best experience ever when I did it. And as a shortlisted writer, I would have been at the head of the parade with all the great and the good, and that didn't happen. But Bloody Scotland were great. They got us interviews on the radio and things like that. So they did their best for us. And the other good thing that happened was it persuaded my publisher, Canelo, to do a print run, because at that point the book had been released as an ebook only. But because it was going to be potentially, it was on a short list, might have won. It didn't in the end because there was a stunningly good book. But because of that, the book was in print, and then my next book went straight to print. So that was a huge boost to my career. What a way to start.
Fantastic.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. So a bit bittersweet, but actually, like you say, getting into print, that was a huge moment for Canelo, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
To me, Marion, I think Clare and Kelly are really similar, and to me, Clare's somebody that I'd like to meet up in a cafe in St Andrews, for a hot chocolate. Was there and I know that fans say this, and I'm sure you'll agree with me that crime fans, they follow the detective.
They do.
The crimes almost become incidental. Everybody loves a good crime and a good police procedural, but it's really important what Clare's doing and who she is, and it's her that keeps the fans. And keeping her consistent but evolving, over the 9 books so far.
Yeah.
How do you keep her fresh without losing, what readers first fell in love with?
So I was thinking about this last night, and I don't know if you feel this about Kelly, but I think Clare is not the same person now that I've just written book 10 as she was in book 1. Because I don't think you get to know your characters straight away. Even by the end of a book, even by the time it's been through rounds of edits and you've fleshed the character out, I still think you're learning about them. And so there's that. The other thing is that I think you have to have an arc for the series and for the characters within the series. You cannot just keep saying, oh, hello, here's another crime, let's keep it writing it, and nobody moves and nobody develops. There have to be life things that happen, and you have to kind of throw rocks at them. It might not always be Claire that I cause problems for. It might be one of her staff, but then she becomes reactive to that. So it's about sitting down at the start of a book and thinking, what can I do with the series this time? What can I do with the town? So the book that I've just written is about it sounds really fascinating. It's about housing, because St Andrews is the most expensive. It has the most expensive street, I think, in Scotland. The street called the Scores, where, the properties, it's just ludicrous, the prices. Probably upsides with London, but for this small residential Scottish town. And there is a real problem for locals that young people will never be able to afford a house in St Andrews, because unless, the people who live there have usually inherited houses, or they have downsized remarkably to be able to afford, where I live, you could sell a detached house And for that money, you probably get a terraced house in St Andrews. That's the difference, 11 miles along the road. So I wanted to write about housing because that was a local issue. So sometimes I'm looking at the town, sometimes I'm looking at Clare, sometimes I'm looking at the police as a whole. But I always try to have, as well as the plot, something going on in the background that will impact on the characters and to move the characters along a little bit. And this is where editors can sometimes be really, really helpful as well, because Louise, my editor, said, I think Claire and her other half, that she used to call the DCI, he's now been promoted, so she can't call him the DCI anymore. So she said they're a bit static. Should we do something with them? And I thought, yeah, let's do that.
Oh, okay, it sounds good. That this question ties nicely into the bit about St Andrews. Small town crimes and big secrets. I love the contrast between the beauty of St Andrews and the
Yeah.
darkness underneath, Marion. Do locals ever tell you they see their town differently now?
Maybe not quite so much differently, but although they will tell me, anything that they think I've got wrong. But they oh yeah, oh god, yes.
Yeah.
I think
Rach
you'll
can
find that you
know
can't
that.
walk down there. Um, I do try to be quite careful, but mostly what they say is that they love following Claire on her sort of where she's going and what she's doing. And I do that because I like to do that in a book. If I'm reading a book, I'll get a map out and try and see where it is and where people are. At the moment, I've got an Ordnance Survey map out on my desk because I'm want to be absolutely sure that you can walk that way
Oh, yeah.
in the countryside. So yeah, so a lot of people will tell me that they enjoy St Andrews being featured, and I'll get that from ex-students who maybe, it's an international university. People will come from America quite a lot. So I do get messages, letters from America saying that it's lovely to be back in St Andrews, and sometimes parents will buy them for their children who were students at St Andrews. I have also warned them when I do a talk in the town, which are usually quite well attended, that I can tell them statistically which streets are the most dangerous, so which streets to avoid when they go out, because there's almost no one left in the town now. I've killed them all.
I love that. I love that you get messages from all over the world, because it really is a famous town, isn't it?
It is, yeah, and that's why I chose it. I'm not daft,
Absolutely.
It's
it's a
Excuse me.
great market sales pitch, isn't it? I mean, obviously,
like the Lake District,
like the Lake
it features
District.
in the Kelly books. Everybody
Yeah.
knows it and loves it,
And you had William and Kate go in there for university, so
I do, and I've never managed to get them in a book. I keep promising to put
you
them
need to
in.
get that in, don't you? Yeah.
But
I mean, this kind of leads on from that, Marion, and I think I can, everybody will hear the your love for the area in your voice, and I think that my next question was going to be about how protective we are as of our settings, because I'm so passionate about Cumbria, which is where I grew up,
and that comes through in the books. So
Yes.
yeah, and that comes through in yours as well. And are you conscious of that? Are you conscious of that?
Yes, I do. I feel a great loyalty, not just to St Andrews, but to kind of Scotland and the surrounding area. There was a thing, I think in my second book, there's a baby is abducted at the start, and
In plain sight, is it?
yes, in plain sight. Well done. And you've done your homework. I'm very impressed. I had to send Claire across to the town just across the water from me, Dundee, which is the town where I was born and grew up, and gets a bad rep because it's got a lot of drug problems and all the rest of it. But I'm very, very fond of Dundee, and I feel fiercely protective of it. And I needed to send her to one of the dodgier housing areas because we all areas have them. And I had a chat to a friend about this and decided in the end to give it a different name, because I didn't want to blacken the name of this area, because although it has a high crime level compared to the rest of the town. There will be lovely people living there, just going about their
Yeah.
everyday lives. And I wanted to really say how run down this, like washing machines in the garden, and sort of apologies to anybody who has a washing machine in their garden currently, but the kind of thing, cars up on bricks, burned out cars, sort of thing. I wanted to be able to portray that, but not upset the people who live
Yeah.
there. So I kept the location roughly where it is, so people will know where it is. But I gave it I made up a name.
Oh, that was really nice because you don't want to be insulting, and
No,
you want to be
absolutely
careful.
not. But I very much wanted people to think, oh gosh, I don't think I'd like to leave my car parked there.
Yeah, that's
I can
exactly
remember,
right.
my aunt and uncle. I only had one aunt and uncle, and this was an Auntie Jean because everyone in Scotland has to have an Auntie Jean. It's practically the law, and they were. They in the 1960s they moved to one of the wonderful new high-rise blocks in East End of Glasgow, and this was to be the brave new world for people coming from what they called slum tenements without bathrooms and things like this. And it was, at the time, it was the highest block in Europe. And she was right at the top, 30 stories up. And across the road from her, there was lots of other blocks that I used to look out on. And I always remember when we went through there, over the years, the area became more and more run down because it was a social disaster. They put hundreds and hundreds of homes in these blocks with like one play park and one nursery and very little for the locals to do. So, of course, there was going to be problems. And I used to park the car outside her block, and I would wonder if it'd still be there when I came back. And that was the sort of feeling that I used and wanted to portray, just being in this kind of scary area. But I don't want to insult anybody, so that's why I changed the name.
Mm. Interesting how interesting to hear how that all comes about. Marion, let's talk a little bit about routine and discipline. Are you someone who writes every day, or do you work in creative bursts? Because I love digging into Rachel's way of working, and I find it really fascinating. Also finding out what drives the inspiration. But my question is, when creating a story in the series, what comes first, the character, the crime, or the setting?
Okay, so I have the setting. Normally, for anything new, if I'm writing, so I've started writing a new series, which is a non-Claire series, but Claire will still keep going. So I'm writing it in tandem with Claire. And definitely for that, the setting comes first because I have to feel it's a place that I want to spend time in my head. Sometimes go there and have a look. So for a new book, a new series, setting comes first. For the Claire books, I've got my setting, so I don't need to bother with that. Plot is the next thing for me because I like plot. I find character really, really difficult. It's the hardest thing for me. And I usually have to go back when I've written the first draft and backfill the characters because at the start of a book, I don't know them. And although I am a plotter, I I still don't know who the characters are, and I discover that and as I'm going. So, but the bit I enjoy most is plot. I love plotting. I like to I like to learn something when I write a book. So when I start to write, I think, right, what am I going to write about this time? So it might be computer hacking, or it might be money laundering, or something like that. And I'll go and do lots of research because research is easier than writing. Writing's very hard. Sitting at a blank screen and thinking, well, I've got to put some words on
Yeah.
this. So
And do
I
you,
love doing the research.
sorry to interrupt. And do you write every day, or do you work in sort of bursts? Sorry, my
Um,
question, there was like
yeah,
heaps of questions in there because I've always got
I
lots of
know, I
questions.
know.
I'm so curious.
I'm going all over the place here. Just stop me. Um,
All
I
good.
when I'm writing, yes, I'll probably write 6 days a week. I try to write every day, but somehow Saturday just gets away from me. I think because I'm a bit more relaxed on a Saturday. Sunday's a good day for me. Um, I'm a bit of a procrastinator, so I will put off. I'll sort of get up. I am not a morning person. Um, I will. I've had to have a lot of coffee to be here. Bit wired. I'll sort of think about what I've written the night before. I might have a look at it, and then I'll take the dog out, and that's when I do my thinking. And then I'll come back and I'll put the kettle on, and then I'll put a washing on, and I'll think, let's go and do something else. And it's probably about 4:00 before I start doing some serious writing. So I'll write from 4 till 6, and then I'll stop and make some food, and then I'll start again about 8, and usually write till about 11, or I might go on to midnight if it's going really well, and sometimes
Right.
past midnight. If I'm near the end of a book, I will just keep going,
Yeah.
which is why I'm dreadful in the morning.
I was just about to say that, which is why you hate mornings. You realise what a privilege this is, Kristy.
Yeah,
I've
I
been
know.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm going back to my bed
Actually,
after this.
Yeah, in full sentences at this time in the morning.
It's
We're so
pretty impressive, I have to say.
That's I totally agree with you there, Marion, about research. That's the fun bit, isn't it?
Oh, it is.
Where we go down so many rabbit holes like maps, experts, googling, and procrastination is just a natural part of that, isn't it? But I do need to point out though, Kristy, and I'll get Marion to fill you in. We're absolute opposites when it comes to planning. So I would be called a pantser, which is I just suck and see. Excuse me. I just sort of sit down and and write, but with exactly the same things in my head as Marion though, which is like, oh, where is this going? I don't know this character yet. Oh right. Oh okay. Oh, she did that. Oh, that's interesting. So exactly the same sort of things going on in our brains. But Marion, tell Kristy and everybody listening about your planning process.
I mean, the way you introduce this makes me feel like I've been brought before the head teacher to kind of tell them what you've done.
I'm in absolute awe because I cannot do this. I've tried. Marion has tried to show me how to get things in order and stuff, and I just can't do it. I'm a post-it note girl. I've got thousands of notebooks and bits of paper, and that's what I was like as a teacher. So it's all Marion. It's not the Gestapo.
Okay, so I'm going to argue that we're not that different, because what I do is the digital version of your post-it notes. I think the difference is I do it before I start writing. So if I say allow 6 months to write a book, that's it might be quicker, it might be slower. The first 6 weeks of that will be planning before I've written a word. And then I'll write the book in about 3 months because it's fully planned. And the way that I approach it is I usually know who my killer is. I usually know what this is going to be about and who the killer is. So I might write a few notes about the last scene. And what I'll do is I'll open up PowerPoint and I use one slide per scene, because I can then, drag them around to different order, just like your post-it notes. So at the top of the slide, I'll put something like day 1, or I might, Tuesday, the 1st of March or something like that. And I'll maybe put rough time of day, morning or 10 a.m. And then 2 or 3 sentences below will tell you what's going to happen in that scene. And then I might not know what happens next, but I might know what happens maybe 2 months, not 2 months, 2 weeks down the line or at the end. So I'll do a slide for that. And I'll do a lot of dog walking and talking to myself and going around the house and muttering and cleaning out cupboards and talking and thinking. And I'll have an idea for a slide and I'll go back to the computer and I'll do that slide. And that process takes me about 6 weeks until I've got all of the slides in order. And then you can do a thing where you export the text into a Word document, and that's my plan. And I can then start writing. And I'll either have, what I sometimes do is I have the plan at the bottom of my book, at the bottom of the Word document. And as I write a scene, I'll delete it and the plan gets shorter and the book gets longer. Or what I'm doing just now is I'm working with PowerPoint open and the Word document open, so that I can refer to it. And sometimes I'll colour a slide when I know that I've done that one. Or to find a different way of dealing with it. It's because I crave order. My life's a bit chaotic. I could, if I was brave enough, I would turn the laptop round to show you the mess of the table at the moment. But so life's a bit, chaotic. I need to go to bed at night knowing what I'm going to write the next day.
Okay. That's
And
the beauty, sorry to interrupt, of getting to speak and having access to both of you amazing authors is you're both incredibly different. And this is such an unreal insight as to how you go about plotting and planning and writing the books. How fascinating. I find that so interesting.
Sorry to interrupt you. I will say that the books can sometimes people will say, "Oh no, I wouldn't want to plot because I would be bored." But the books still surprise me. I was writing a scene 2 nights ago where it was a press conference. The police were giving a press conference to talk about a crime, and I heard one of the reporters getting up and saying to my main character, "I believe you went to school with the victim," and I thought, I didn't know that. So these things will just spring up, and you think, "Oh, that's a good idea. I'll put that in the book." They do still surprise you.
It's like a supportive grid in the background, isn't it? Rather
Yes,
than
absolutely.
Yeah.
Fantastic. We mentioned that your books have a touch of the Scottish grit, and Scottish crime fiction has the dark wit and emotional depth readers really love. Marion, do you think it's the landscape or the people or the humour that gives it that edge?
I think it's a combination of all of those. I do think that Scotland punches above its weight in crime fiction terms. We do have quite a lot of successful writers. I think there's something about, we're coming into autumn, and there was a thing on the news this morning about the clocks going back, which I don't know if you do that in Australia, but we have this thing in the autumn where we put the clocks back an hour. It's my favourite night of the year because you get an extra hour in bed. Obviously, spring is awful when it goes forward and I lose an hour. That's shocking. I think it should just keep going back.
We've just gone forward, Marion. So we've gone into daylight saving. So we're in spring now, heading into summer. So it's still a little bit light outside. But normally when Rach and I are recording, it's pitch black, isn't it, Rach?
Yeah.
So in Scotland in the winter, we don't have a huge amount of daylight. It will probably be about 8:30 where I live before the sun comes up, and that's with the clocks going back, and then it's dark by 4 o'clock. So there are short days, and also it's a funny thing. I was down in the south of England for a wedding, and we did a bit touring around, and the buildings there are so completely different. There's a lot of honey-coloured stone and red brick, and it just is a bit more kind of cheering. Whereas in Scotland we have grey sandstone or granite or brown sandstone, and I think there's a darkness, there's a physical darkness, particularly in St Andrews, where there's a lot of very old buildings built in sandstone. So there's a kind of grey pallor to the buildings, and although you can have lovely sunshine, the sun's so low in the sky at this time of year, barely gets over the horizon, and I think that helps crime because it's easier to commit crime in the dark. And also I think what you say about the dry wit of some Scottish people, and the third element there is police black humour, which is a coping mechanism.
Right.
Something you have to be very careful with, that you don't become inappropriate with it. And that sometimes I get picked up by my editor saying, "I don't think you should really say that." But I think it's all of those kind of things that I try, as Claire and Chris have got to know each other and as I've got to know them, they've got a kind of repartee between them, just kind of little one-liners, and they just come naturally. They're not. I just hear Chris saying something like that and Claire right back at him. And that's the fun thing to do. So I think that there's a particularly Scottishness to Scottish books. It's a funny thing, there's no border between us there, but there is a difference, particularly having been down to the south of England. The way people speak is different. The way they interact with each other is different. And I guess that's just more about me observing people now as a writer.
Yeah, and I think there's an international affection for Scotland as a separate entity as well, isn't there? You know,
I think
in
so,
America,
yes.
on the continent, I think that's true too. Marion, asking for a friend, about
Ah,
your
so you are.
our saggy middles. So, how do you get through a sticky bit? You've already mentioned, you know, walking the dog, and totally there with you. Our little plot walks, love it. What sort of thing, you know, gets you through those sticky moments?
Yeah, it's. I think Val McDermott calls it the muddle in the middle, and she's absolutely spot on. I guess for me, yeah, the book kind of falls into three phases for me. I find the first 20 to 30,000 words a grind because I'm setting up the crime and I've done this so many times before and I'm trying to make it slightly different and a bit more interesting. And of course, Claire has to task her team. She's got to say to them, I want you to do this and you to do this and you to do this. And it's trying to make that different every time. So that's a real slog. But I do know where I'm shooting. And then you get into the middle and you think, right, I just want her to arrest the protagonist now. I don't want to write the next 30 words because when I get to sort of 60,000 words, the book takes off. So that
Yeah.
middle bit is it's like try to put things in the way to hold back the inevitable. And that's when more complexity has to come in. And I hate it. It's very, very difficult. So
Oh, sounds hard.
It really is, yeah. What I would do is, I think it was it Winston Churchill who said, "When you're going through hell, keep going."
Yeah,
Um,
I love that. Yeah.
Normally, I would try to write 1 to 2,000 words a day, depending on the day, and I just have to accept that there will be days when I can only do 300 words. But if that's all I do, then it's 300 more than I had the day before. And sometimes I'll do sprints, which is where you set a timer and you only let yourself write for, I usually do 20 minutes, but if it's really bad, I'll do 10. And when the timer's done, you count your words. And because you're on a timer, there's something about it that makes me think, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up,
Yeah.
get something down. It doesn't matter if it's right, just get something down, which is the thing. You may have done this, Rachel, when you were teaching. I used to say to students, don't get it right, get it written. You can
Yeah.
fix it later, get something down. So when that timer goes off, I stop and I count my words and I go off and I have a cup of tea. And then I'll come back and I'll set the timer again. And that can be a really productive way of getting over a hump.
Yeah.
But I think you just have to accept that that part is going to be harder and slower, but that when you get, for me anyway, when you get to 60, 70,000 words, it goes like a train. And if I could sit and write it in one massive session, I would, because I just want to get the words down. I know everything that's going to happen now. There's no more surprises. And I'm just
It's
like,
so
this,
exciting.
you didn't know
Yeah.
this, and look. So you've just got to keep going, but it's hard.
Yeah. That's
Writing a book is
the
difficult.
Pomodoro method. Is that right?
Oh, I don't
When
know that name. Is
you're
that what
on,
that is?
I think that's what it's called. Yeah. So in
Okay.
academia, they do that. I work at a university, so a lot of the
Oh, right.
academics do that. So they'll have those sprints, like you're saying, where they have to
Yeah.
do it for 90 minutes, then have 20 minutes off, and
Yeah.
keep alternating it to keep, but having that timer set and having the countdown clock can really help.
The other thing that
Um,
kind of, when you're doing sprints, if you've got someone down the line, like if I say to Rachel's, the group that we're in, or to another group of writers, anybody up for a sprint tonight, then if you know that someone else is doing it, you're online and you say, right, go, and then stop. And then you can have a little bit of a chat. And so knowing that someone else is doing it can make
Yeah.
you keep going a bit longer.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I really love that. They do that at work as well. So the academics get together and they write without talking. They go into a room together
Yeah.
and they're all writing, or they're online together. So it just keeps them, so that they know that somebody's there doing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Really interesting. Marion, bloody Scotland, I love saying that word, bloody Scotland, has
You say
become,
it so nicely.
because I use the word bloody a lot.
Bloody Scotland.
Bloody Scotland has
Bloody
become such a
Scotland.
a big
Sorry.
event for crime writers.
Yeah.
I've got 2 questions here, Marion. What does being part of that festival mean to you? And if you'd give one piece of advice to someone attending Bloody Scotland who's hoping to break into crime fiction, what would that be?
Okay. I'll take the second one first because this is so easy. Wear trainers. That's it. That's
What,
it.
like
Wear
runners
trainers.
on your feet?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like Nike shoes or something. Stirling, Bloody Scotland is a great festival. It's set in the Scottish town of Stirling, which is a castle, and it's got lots of lovely buildings. And it's not like a festival like Theakston's Crime Writing Festival in Harrogate, which is set in one venue and everybody is there all the time. It's peppered around the town, and you can be, going between venues. You'll be at one place, and then you want to get to a talk in 10 minutes. You're sprinting along the road to the next one. And the bar where everyone collects is called the Golden Lion. It's the Golden Lion Hotel, and it's rammed, so you may never get a seat in there. So you need to be wearing comfortable clothes. The second piece of advice is that most of the writers who are there are incredibly approachable and love to talk to readers and people who want to write. So never be nervous about going up and saying to someone, "Hello, are you, whoever," because they'll always talk to you. What does it mean to me? It was the festival that gave me my start, because after 2020 or 2021, they gave me a panel the next year. I wasn't that well known, but it was so lovely to be included. I find it very welcoming and inclusive, and they've given me quite a lot of panels over the years, but even when I've not been on a panel, I still go and stay for the whole weekend. It's the one that I would say most people go to after Theakston's, after Harrogate. People will come up often from London, and it's such a difficult place to get to. Stirling, it's a peg of a journey, especially when you're going home on a Sunday. But it's the one that agents and editors will come up to and have dinners and drinks and things like that, because it's just such a well attended one. People come from all over to go to it, so it's my home festival, and I'm very, very fond of it. Lovely, lovely people who organise it.
Oh, that's so lovely, and the great advice there for crime fiction authors that are just starting out. So that's awesome advice.
Yeah, and I think this, this whole idea of, don't be shy of going up to people and asking questions. I think that's what makes these festivals so special. But Marion, you're brilliant on social media, which can be a bit of a tricky space for everybody.
Yeah.
Things are getting harder and harder. I love how you post stuff that's not just about writing as well. What was that one that you did when we were in Harrogate, that drink? And you got about, how many likes did you get in the end? It was about 39,000.
Yeah, it was like 40,000 or something. There's a drink when I grew up as a child. It's apparently only in Scotland, although I challenge that, called Creamola Foam. And it came in a metal tin with a lid that you had to take the back of a spoon to get off. A bit like Alka-Seltzer. In fact, it was basically flavoured Alka-Seltzer. And you put a teaspoon in a glass and filled it with water, and it fizzed a little bit, and there were different flavours of strawberry and lemon, or I should say pink and yellow, because, it didn't really taste of strawberries or lemons, and orange as well. And the bar at Harrogate at the festival is sometimes not very good for soft drinks. So I don't know what I chose. I can't remember. But anyway, it was in a bottle, and they gave me a glass, and I went and sat down, and I started to drink it, and I said, this is just like Creamola Foam. And not one person around that table, they all went, "What?" And so I did a quick TikTok. I said, "Right, this is Marion. I'm at Harrogate Festival, and nobody knows what Creamola Foam is." And oh my gosh, I got so many answers. And it seems to be that it was known in Northern Ireland, in the whole of Scotland, and to an extent in the north of England, but not beyond that. So obviously a kind of Celtic.
You hit a sweet spot there.
Livener. A Celtic livener.
The other one that I did that was an incredible success, I've never had anything like it, was when we'd had a lot of rain. I mean, an awful lot of rain. And what happens in Scotland, it'd be exactly the same in the Lake District, is it's often not the day that it rains that you see the floods. It's the day afterwards, because the water comes down off the hills and it
Yeah.
will continue to come off the hills for a few days. And there's a dam in a kind of Perthshire town called Pitlochry. And it's quite a thing to see. People will go and look at the dam, and it has a salmon ladder for the salmon to kind of jump up. So salmon have to go up river to spawn. I think that's the right word.
Yep.
And the dam's in the way of this. It's across the river, so they've created a like a ladder of bit
Oh,
like
jump
locks
up.
in a canal. And it's very famous, the salmon ladder. And when you go at the right time of year, you can see the salmon leaping out of the water up to
Oh,
the
I want to
next
see
stage and then
that.
up to the next stage.
Yeah.
So we had been up to Aviemore. My partner was running a half marathon, and the weather was just, I stepped out of the car at the car park up to ankle deep mud. It was just so wet. One of the wettest times I can ever remember. And on our way down, we stopped at Pitlochry and went to see the dam, and it was completely inundated. The water was coming over the top of the dam. I've never seen it like that. And it was the most spectacular sight. And I took a video and put it up on YouTube, 500,000 views. And in fact, STV News, Scottish Television News, used a very similar video. And at one point, I thought they'd taken my video, but it was taken from a slightly different angle. It was so dangerous you couldn't even go close, and they'd closed. Normally, you can walk across the top of the dam, but obviously it was closed because the water was cascading over. So that's how to get engagement. Apparently, it doesn't sell
That's
books.
incredible.
Probably not.
Yeah. Well, we've just done something really fun on our socials of the Killer Storyteller podcast and connected with the Turkish audience. Rachel's books are so popular in Turkey, and our last social post with just acknowledging the Turkish audience and saying thank you to them for being so supportive.
Fantastic.
Berserk. And I kept taking screenshots. I'm like, shit, look at this. Another 1,000, another 1,000, another 1,000.
That's amazing.
It just went nutso, didn't it, Rach?
It did. It went absolutely nuts, didn't it? And we've been in contact with the publisher. We're hoping to do, a joint, I don't know, maybe a video or something with them. But they are, you can't predict it, can you? You can't predict what's going
you absolutely don't know what's going to take off.
What's going to kick off, because sometimes it can feel like a real grind, and you just got to. It's like the writing of it, really, isn't it? You've just got to keep going.
Yeah, I don't know. I think less and less social media is helpful, but I feel it might come back again. It might come good, and I'm just plugging on. But I did a TikTok in my bed last night at sort of like midnight, and I can't even remember now what it was. But I'd been on this holiday in England, and I'd taken videos, and I thought, all right, I'll put one of them up and put some music to it. And you just got, as you say, got to keep going.
Yeah, I like the ones in the car, Marion. You're like, right now, I've just arrived at blah, blah, and I want to get out and have a quick chat before I get out of the car.
Do you know, I do it in the car because I see some authors who will be doing a recording when they're walking down the street, and I can't do it. I feel somebody will overhear me and think I'm a muppet. So if I do it in the car, nobody can hear me.
And the acoustics are always really good in the car too.
So yeah. And you've got a mirror. You can sort of
pluck out those hairs in the chin.
Oh,
you always
absolutely.
see them in the car.
I'm going to wax my moustache. I think like Poirot. That'd be a good crime.
See those great big hairy ones that just grow overnight. It's like,
you have nothing to coil when you're plotting.
Yeah, I could do that. Yes.
Marion, I'm keen to learn a little bit about what you do to recharge. So, do you read other people's crime novels, or do you indulge in something completely different? Do you still play the piano?
I do. I bought a new piano about a year ago. No, almost 2 years ago now. I've wanted to have a boudoir grand, as it's called, for ages. It's like halfway between a baby grand and a full-sized concert grand, although there's lots of sizes in between. The reason I'm not keen on baby grands is that they have quite short strings, and the shorter the string, the less good the noise. What you want is a nice big box with kind of long strings. And in fact, an upright piano, if it's overstrung, which means that the strings cross each other diagonally, means that they'll be longer. You know, Pythagoras, diagonals are longer than uprights. And so if you've got an upright with overstrung across the way, you'll get a better sound from that than you will from a baby grand. But a boudoir grand is quite long, and so it has nice long strings. And I was at a party and introduced to because I used to teach piano, introduced to another piano teacher, and she just kind of said conversationally, "I don't suppose you want to buy a boudoir grand?" And I said, "Well, more than life itself. Are you selling one?" So I have that, and I bought myself some new music to try and get me back into kind of playing something a bit more challenging. And what else do I do? I do read other people's crime books, but it's mainly what we call ARCs, advanced review copies or reader copies,
Oh, yeah.
that we get sent from publishers.
Yeah.
And I never seem to get to the bottom of my ARCs pile. Sometimes it'll just be going to the theatre to see. I love going. We've got a lovely repertory company, professional rep company in Dundee. So I'll quite often go and see plays there or go to the cinema. If I have time, I like to do a jigsaw because
Yep.
that empties your head completely
Yep.
because you're focusing on where does this little bit go. So that's a really good brain emptier. And kind of there's not really time for anything else.
Yeah. Yeah, there's not enough hours in the day, is there? I
No,
could spend
definitely
all my
not.
time reading. I've got a couple of questions for both you and Rach, and you're both under the Canelo umbrella, the UK publisher. And is there a crime authors club? And when you guys get together, do you talk about all the different ways to murder or solve crimes or create the baddies? Is that because I'm really interested?
Well, as Rach said earlier, we've got our WhatsApp group,
Yes.
and it's incredibly supportive. It's not just about the books. It's we've shared information about ourselves and our ups and our downs, and so it's a really great support group, but it's also fabulous for our annual get together is in Harrogate at the
Oh,
Theakston's
yeah.
Crime Writing
Yes.
Festival, and
Yep.
it's kind of everyone has to come. It's a 3-line whip. You have to be there, and that's kind of just it's a bit like when cows are let out of the barn in spring when they've been in all winter and they're kicking up their heels or chickens come out of the chicken shed blinking at the daylight. It's like us when we get together. The talking is just relentless,
Love
and we
that.
go for a whole weekend. And the lovely thing about it is that we don't sort of like all go together as a homogenous group, moving as one. We'll just be in and out of each other's
Yeah.
worlds. And, I'm going here, you're going there, and then we catch up later. And we fall into it like with an old friendship. It's like a comfort blanket.
Yeah.
Um,
So
it's the
lovely.
best thing ever. And the advice I would give to anyone who's starting out in writing is find someone who you share an agent with or you share a publisher with, and make friends with them. You might get on, you might not, but we'll be friends for life. Connected by the simple fact that the same publisher offered us all contracts.
Oh,
It's
Yeah,
lovely. Love that.
it's so special, and we laugh a lot, and we actually probably I'd say only 10% of our time is talking about work, and the
yeah.
rest is just shooting the shit, and just sharing, and it's like because we don't work in an office, we don't attend meetings, we don't have these things in our lives, so when we get together, we've got all these things to discuss. Like, love that these cows being let out. It's hilarious. and actually, we probably sound quite similar to that as well. And we do sort of, crack into hilarity in our own little bubble, don't we? But Harrogate's really special. I love it. I feel really massively privileged to be part of, our little crew. It's really supportive. Yeah.
It's
fantastic.
Fabulous. Yeah.
I was going to ask you, Rach and Marion, D.I. Kelly Porter, she thrives on instinct and justice, and D.I. Clare Mackay runs on precision and persistence. If these two ever teamed up, who would take the lead? And who would secretly bend the rules to crack the case first? Hypothetical.
Good question. I think, Claire would start by opening a bottle because it's her best skill. She's very, very good at that. I think they would be a pretty formidable team.
They would, wouldn't they?
I would not like to come up against those two. I think Claire is a bit of a rule keeper because that's probably me. I'm a good girl. I'm always saying, if I'm in a car and someone else is driving, I'll be saying, this is 60, don't you? And they'll be like, but everybody else is going, it doesn't matter. There might be a speed camera. So she would maybe try to rein Kelly in a bit. Would she be successful, Rach?
Well, we talked about this recently, didn't we? About the rules, and you were married to a detective.
I was,
you,
yes,
Marion?
for many years,
and also the fact that Claire, had that sort of incident in Glasgow, same as Claire Kelly had the incident in London. They've got a lot to prove, and what I've noticed is fans tend to use the word feisty about both of them.
Yes.
They'd work it out. I think they'd be absolutely cracking together.
Would be good, wouldn't
it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
so good.
Definitely.
Something to think about. Finally, let's talk about AI and authorship and the future. Marion, when you found out your work had been used by AI, that must have been a big shock. How did that feel and what it means for authors? Actually, this is a question for both of you guys.
I cannot emphasize what a serious threat this is to our livelihoods, because it's already happening to audiobook narrators, and they're losing to AI voices, and translators as well. The work is going to AI. I was pretty shocked. I was pretty horrified. It's not unusual to find that your books have been pirated. They'll appear on pirate websites. It happens to Rach as well. It happens to us all the time, and you're always trying to get them taken down. But AI is another level of threat, because if they feed the Kelly books and the Clare books into these large language models, they'll be able to touch a button and say, right, give us 100 Kelly books, give us 1,000 Clare books, and put us out of work effectively. Now, they might not be very good to start with, but these models are learning all the time. And the worst thing about what happened with Meta is when they stole it, was it 8.5 million books?
Yeah.
Something like that. That they will feed this in, and it will learn from all of our books. And I don't know if I don't know what will happen to publishing in the future. And the other concern that's very rarely talked about is the amount of energy and water that AI uses. It's absolutely horrendous. And any time you ask AI to do something for you, it's using a huge amount of energy. And I try my very best not to use it for anything. But if you use Google, your top option is the AI answer.
That's right.
I'm thinking of moving to, I think, is it DuckDuckGo? Doesn't use AI, or I think there's a couple of search engines, but they won't be very good. But I find it very depressing, actually, and the fact that these tech companies obviously think that it's worth the risk of just stealing the money, and then they'll deal with any fine, if there ever is a fine, if it ever gets through the legal system in America, which is years let's face it. They'll just pay the money, or they'll appeal, and the can will get kicked down the road, and eventually it'll just get forgotten. So it's a gloomy prospect, I have to say. And please, anyone listening, don't buy an AI book if you know that. I'm undecided about this. Some publishers have said that they're going to label their books written by a human, and I don't know what I think about that, because unless everyone does it, and because then the implication might be, if your book isn't labeled, perhaps it was written by AI. And will the people writing AI books be honest about it? It's and you know, we've all been in education, and I don't know how you're going to police that. It's bad. It was bad enough before, when you very funny story at college. I probably shouldn't tell this, but you know, nobody's listening. So we used to use a system at college called Turnitin, which was a plagiarizing check. You would put the students' essays through this, and I usually let them have up to 20%, because they would be maybe quoting from books and referencing it. And then after that, I would say, maybe go and have a look at that again. And there was one student who was just downright cheating. It came up with a score of about 70%. So the student was given the essay back to rewrite, and it came back with a 90%. It just used a different plagiarizing source. So, you know, I don't know how we counter this. I really don't. And I don't know what academia can do.
Yeah. And we're at the dangerous bit of any change, aren't we? Which is
We
the
are.
very beginning, and suddenly it takes off and gets quicker and quicker and quicker. And you know, you mentioned education, Marion. I mean, you know, both of my kids, you know, have said about you know, people getting caught using AI for essays, but the education system can't keep up, because they've got plagiarism checks, but they haven't got AI checks yet, because how do you do that?
Yes.
So you've got all of these layers of technology trying to keep up, and it's across the whole creative industry as well. Music, you know, artists are coming out now and saying that, you know, their industry has been taken over, and this like homogenous, soulless blob of product is being regurgitated out there, and the hope is that people will just be able to instinctively tell the difference. And like all of these things, we will one day get maybe a balance of you know, living alongside it, but it not erasing us. That's the worry, isn't it? And I mean, just as a like an experiment, really, I put into, because I don't really know how to use it. I know that my daughter uses it for a few bits of research and things like that at university. I'm not quite sure what to do with it. So me and a friend put in one day, it was a couple of months ago, give me the opening chapter of a crime book in the style of Rachel Lynch. Oh my God. It wrote a chapter, and at the beginning there was a blurb on what my style is, and it got it right. It was Lake District, gritty, dark, threat, la la la, and I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. And suddenly I realized that actually, because people are caught all the time, aren't they, Marion? We see it all the time on social media, and really savvy readers, you know, have actually picked this up. They've come to the middle of a book, and somebody, whoever's created this thing, they've left the ChatGPT prompts in, because they're not writers, they don't care, you know, they've just done it to make money on Amazon, because anybody can, you know, publish on Amazon. And so they've just, you know, created this thing, and they've forgotten to take the prompts out, and people have bought it, and readers have called them out, and so Amazon's taken these down. But it's a tsunami, you know. How do we fight this? So it's scary, and it's worrying, and it's not an easy time to be a creator of any type of original content. And we've just got to hope that nobody can actually replace that spark, the X factor, which is in a human brain. Where it leads, I don't know.
But you know what crime writers are like? Crime readers are like, Rachel. They hoover up books. Some of them read a book in a day. And so I think it would be tempting for them.
Yeah.
You know,
And also, once they've bought it, Marion, that's it. They've bought it. So
Yeah,
even if they realise it's AI and they don't like it, they've still bought it. So there you've got an industry.
Yeah. It's a concern.
Be interesting to touch base in 12 months' time and see where things are at, because it's moving so fast, isn't it? It's just moving incredibly fast. So there's more here. So yeah, be really interesting to see what happens in the next 12 months. Well, Marion, we could really keep chatting for ages. I can't believe we're at the end of our podcast today. That was absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for joining us for a chat. And I've just loved getting this opportunity to meet you and hearing some of your stories and your beautiful Scottish accent. It's so, so lovely.
Thank you. It's so kind of you to ask me. I'm very, very honoured to be your first guest, and I can't believe the time's gone in. It's just flown in. I've had such fun chatting.
Thanks, Marion. It's been absolutely brilliant. I've loved it, and huge congratulations. And when's number 10 out? Have you got a title?
Yes, she says. Try to remember what it is. I think it's called what? Leave me alone.
What?
I'm tired. It's very early in the morning here. Very early. What's it called? It's called Watch Them Fall. And
fantastic.
it is out on the 12th of March next year, 2026. 12th of March.
Perfect. Well, maybe we could get you back on in the spring.
Yes.
That'd be lovely. I'd love to do that.
Next year is going to be such a big year. Rachel's got a couple of books coming out and your book coming out. So that's fantastic. And you can find all of Marion's books wherever you get your crime fiction. We'll drop some links into the show notes. I've actually started with See Them Run, so completely hooked.
Oh, Kristy,
thank you so much.
Oh, well, Kristy and Marion, thank you so much. And I think that wraps up this episode of the Killer Storyteller podcast. What an epic episode with me, Rachel Lynch, and my Aussie pal, Kristy Horn. We really hope you've enjoyed this episode as much as we have. It's been a special one.
It certainly has. And remember, you can find us on all your favourite platforms. And if you're listening on Spotify, hit the follow button so you never miss an episode and help support the show. Alrighty, Rach, that is another killer ep in the bag. How did you enjoy this one?
Oh, loved it, Kristy. Yeah, could chat forever, couldn't we, with Marion?
Really, really good. Thank you so much, Marion. It's lovely to see you. And I'll do that again. Same here. We absolutely nailed it, Rach. Okie doke, that's over and out for now. See you next time. Bye, Rach. Bye, Marion.
Bye.
Bye, Kristy.
See ya. All right, I'm just going to hit stop and don't hang up, guys, until I finish.
Record before we go.